My husband of 20 years is cheating on me with our son's 18-year-old girlfriend. I, 41 female, am a stay-at-home mom. My husband, 48 male, whom we'll call Paul, works in finance. We've been married for nearly 20 years. We have 2 kids who we'll call Eric, an 18-year-old son, currently a senior in high school, and Mary, our 15-year-old daughter. They are both the lights of my life. My marriage with my husband has grown somewhat stale over the years for a myriad of reasons, such as his work schedule and how I've aged poorly since we first met. Our son Eric has a girlfriend, 18 female, who he's been dating since they were freshmen in high school. We'll call her Amy. Eric absolutely adores Amy. She's his first love, and she's someone I've always considered his family. This makes the whole situation emotionally excruciating for me. Last week, I inadvertently saw my husband's phone screen and got a glimpse of a text thread between my husband and Amy, our son's girlfriend, and I read what looked like a message of her telling him that she misses sucking his D. I froze in place, in complete disbelief. I spent most of the day convincing myself that I had misread what I saw. However, I didn't misread it because over the last several days, I discovered a file on his computer with tons of BDSM porn. He clearly has a porn addiction. He also has saved photos of Amy from her Instagram on his computer. Although they weren't inappropriate, she was fully clothed, it was still proof that I needed to confirm that I wasn't going crazy. I also looked at his phone during opportune moments and saw more of their interactions. I wish I had never looked. They were filled with mean, horrible things said at my expense, with him constantly comparing me to her. He would call me fat and old, among other things, with Amy LOLing. I've always had hunches or paranoid feelings that Paul has been cheating on me, but never in a million years could I have fathomed something like this. Last month, I found a thong in our bedroom that I know wasn't mine. I turned a blind eye to it, being naive and acting like it was maybe our daughter's, even though that made 0 sense. Not only is he cheating on me, but he's betraying our son. I'm totally overwhelmed on how to handle this because obviously actions need to be taken, but I'm terrified of what kind of psychic blow this will be for my son. I have no idea how to even broach this completely fucked up topic with him. I can't believe that I married this scumbag in the first place. And then my mind started to race, realizing that I had started noticing specifically unusual behavior from him around the same time Amy turned 18. Was he waiting for her to turn 18 before pursuing this affair? There's so many layers to all of this, and I'm completely paralyzed with fear and dread about it all. None of it makes any effing sense. How did this happen? Am I that much of a stupid idiot that I let all of this happen under my watch? Eric adores Amy, and the thought of revealing this sickening truth to him terrifies me. The impact on his young heart and mind could be devastating. My heart aches for Eric and Mary, who are completely innocent bystanders. I haven't confronted my husband about this because I'm frankly scared of the domino effect. I don't know who to turn to first about this. I share my story not for sympathy, but in search of understanding and perhaps advice from those who might have had to grapple with deep betrayal. My brother connected me to a very tough junkyard dog type lawyer. I saved screenshot of all of his conversations with Amy. I was only able to get the last 3 months from iCloud. The conversations were mostly flirty and dirty talk. It was hard to stomach, completely sleazy, and I saw several negative things said about me. His call history showed that he talks with her for hours pretty consistently. He uses dating apps. I took screenshots of his profiles and all of the active chats he has with his matches. It's very clear he uses a filter to seek out girls who are 18 to 22 or so. I copied all of his files from the computer. He goes on SEX chat rooms and forums, and he spends a ton of money on OF. I rummaged through every possible hiding spot I could think of in that house. He had various toys, blindfolds, cuffs, lubricants, etc. He also had different outfits, which kind of looked like girls' Catholic school uniforms and a French maid type outfit too. I picked up Eric and Mary from school, and we all drove to my brother's. They were able to sense something was awry when I picked them up. I delicately told them the entire situation, and I broke down crying. Mary had the most anger, even more than Eric. I met with Amy's mother and told her everything. She confiscated Amy's phone and gave me the entire chat log. It only dated back 3 months ago, like on my husband's cloud. Almost as if they both deleted the messages at the same time. She told me that Amy sobbed when confronted. Amy basically told her mother that she'll never understand and that she and him are in love. I don't want to get into too many details of what else she was saying, but suffice to say, it's very easy to assume that my husband slowly and methodically became a sage-like figure in her life, making her feel like she could rely on him, and he took advantage of the fact that she came from a broken home. Amy is also non-stop insistent that their friendship only became romantic/physical recently, and before that, she said he was more of a friend and mentor. I confronted Paul over Zoom. The look on his face was scary. He became red and looked so sweaty. He had anger and panic in his eyes. His tone of voice was very defensive and frightening. He kept yelling the word context over and over again, and that none of that happened. He was unable to speak without constant stutters and intensity. Nothing really made any sense to me. I refused to tell him where I was, and he said that I had no right to take his kids away from him, and then he abruptly left the Zoom. My lawyer is filing for temporary sole custody of Mary and a restraining order. Mary is still the most angry. She's totally furious with her dad and Amy. Justifiably so, of course. Eric is very clearly hurting, but he's so strong and very level-headed. He wants to see a therapist. The maturity my kids are showing makes me proud. They don't deserve this at all. We made the authorities aware of everything. I plan on being completely unforgiving and ruthless in this divorce. I'm reflecting on how I've been treated and how it's made me a shell of myself and how I've had a very negative opinion of myself because of him over the last 20 years. I don't want to let this scumbag get away with it. I want to reinvent myself and move on stronger than ever.
I saw a woman on here say that she'll never enable her autistic son if he engages in harmful behaviour that could easily be discouraged through boundaries and reinforcement. And it reminded me of the one and only time I've almost got into a physical fight with a stranger. So I'm at Lust with my boyfriend and we're feeding oats to the ducks in the water, and there's a mother and son's maybe about 11, standing 10 metres away from us. They also have a Morrison's bag that's filled with what I thought were oats to begin with. So the boy is like aggressively throwing handfuls of the oats at the ducks, right? Like he's throwing it at them instead of to them. And I'm like, well, he's a bit enthusiastic, but he's not going to hurt them, right? Until I heard the mysterious projectiles hit the water, and then I'm like, hang on, that doesn't sound like oats, that sounds like pebbles. So I kind of watched them a wee bit just to see what's happening. They're 5 metres away from us now, they've moved a bit closer, and I confirmed that, yeah, they are carrying a bag of small stones. So I think, oh, he must like the way it sounds when the stones hit the water, right? So I'll help him by moving the ducks out the way. So me and my boyfriend walk further down the beach, and obviously the ducks come with us. But then the mother and son also follow us down the beach. So I was getting a wee bit concerned, but I wasn't going to say anything until I was absolutely sure of what I was seeing. So the routine of us moving the ducks out of his path only for them to follow us and continue to aim specifically at the ducks happened like 2 more times. So at that point I'm pretty damn sure of what I'm seeing. It wasn't coincidence, he was following the ducks and aiming at them on purpose. They wanted to hit the ducks with the stones. I was getting so wound up the more I watched this because the mum was full on encouraging this. Like, she had her hand underneath the bag so that he could reach in and get better handfuls of rocks to volley full force at these birds. Eventually it just came out. Like, I turned to her and inquisitively said in this exact tone, "Sorry, is that rocks you're throwing at the ducks?" I phrased it like a question and didn't raise my voice at all because I wanted to see how she'd react, and her reaction absolutely confirmed that she knew what they were doing was fucked up. She was kind of caught off guard and like stunned at first, so she went, "Yes, what? And when I replied, "Could you not aim for them? I don't think that's very nice," she went nuts. Like, you'd think I'd walked up to this family in the middle of a barbecue and done a fat shit in their hot dog buns the way this woman absolutely screamed at me. I deliberately barely moved. I just sort of, as she stormed towards me, I just sort of half turned towards her as she approached, shouting all manner of things like, "How dare I? What business is it of mine what she does?" etc. And I just kept kind of calmly replying to her with phrases like, "Well, you could just aim away from them, and I just don't think you should hurt animals, it's not very nice." The whole time never raising my voice and just calmly tossing oats to the ducks the entire time. I wanted to be very careful not going to her level of rage. So when she didn't get a rage-filled reaction out of me, she suddenly screams, "My son is autistic!" And I don't think she expected me to just immediately go, "Well, that's not an excuse to hurt animals, you should probably just tell him not to do that." She went fucking nuclear. Keep in mind that since this woman stormed towards me, I've barely moved, I've never raised my voice, and I've just continued calmly tossing oats to the ducks the entire time. I'm acting like we're having very different conversations because I want it to sink in for her how insane she's acting by comparison. Because by this point there's witnesses, right? There's other couples and families dotted around that have looked over because she shrieked at me like I've spat in her face and cursed her bloodline. At this point, she calls me a little bitch and grabs my forearm. That's right, my lack of aggression caused her so much frustration that she physically assaulted me. Starting to get a clearer picture of where the wee man gets this behaviour, and it's not the fucking autism. And this prompts a bit of a change in tone. I kind of rip my arm out of her grip, and then me and my boyfriend both simultaneously say in our best "let the Karen know you're finished indulging her" voice, "Do not dare fucking touch me." Which seems to like flabbergast her more for some reason, as if she didn't just call me a bitch and grab me. So grabbing a stranger, perfectly fine, but the stranger telling you fucking not to, plain bamboozling madness. At this point the husband comes over and he seems kind of resigned and accepting of what's happening, as if he's seen something like this go down before. So at this point she starts howling that she's going to phone the police, and I answer too quickly and calmly for her liking, "Oh, please do, I'm sure they would love to hear about you pelting ducks with rocks and then physically assaulting a stranger who asked you not to." So now tears of frustration and embarrassment well up in her eyes. And I'm thinking, oh no, you don't. I'm the final boss when it comes to stubborn white women, and I've seen one too many of you people phone the police on black families using public swimming pools to be affected by the sudden tears I'm the victim here act. But then the husband just grabs her by the forearms and leads her away back towards the car park, and their son just kind of toddles along behind them. And that was that. The police never did show up. Funny that. I wonder why. Now, I got the impression this woman is absolutely the type to tell her circle her own version of this about how some random girl just bullies autistic children. So if someone in your life told you a similar but different sounding story about 9 years ago, please pass on the following information to her. Something I didn't know at the time of our charming little Lochside chat, and that I would like you to know now, is that medical professionals have since enlightened me to the possibility that I have autism. Uno reverse, Karen! Diagnosis pending. But on top of that satisfying little Uno reverse, I would just like to highlight how disgusting it is to insinuate that autism makes you want to hurt animals. Or that if someone who's neurodivergent does want to do harmful or antisocial things, we should just let them or actively encourage them just because they're neurodivergent. That is not how society works, nor should it be. But yeah, I still think about you, Karen. I hope the divorce went well and that your husband's living somewhere safe with someone a lot more sane.
Am I the astronaut for wanting to expose my sister to her husband after she confessed to my husband on her wedding day? Sorry for the confusing title. I didn't know how to word it any other way. I, 24 female, have been married to my husband, 27 male, for about 2 years. My sister, 26 female, and her husband, 26 male, are high school sweethearts. My sister and I have always been close. Despite the small age gap, she acted like my second mother. So I never doubted her in anything. Let's call her Jane. My husband, let's call him Bob, and I met at uni. I was 20 and he was 23. He excelled in academics, sports, and looks, and was well known around campus because of that. So obviously I had a crush on him. Jane also attended the same uni. Because I was new, she included me in her big circle of friends, and he was a part of that. I never made a move because I respected Jane and her friends. I didn't want to cause any trouble or make things awkward. She meant the world to me. Eventually, though, Bob and I became close friends. I grew to like him more. I also noticed that Jane rarely interacted with him, which was odd considering she was close to almost everyone in her circle, but I never said anything. I did end up telling her that I liked him, though. She told me not to get my hopes up because he wasn't interested in any relationship. I was crushed, but tried to see him as a friend. He ended up confessing to me on my 21st birthday, and we began dating, which obviously resulted in marriage, and here we are now. During the entire time we were dating, Jane started to distance herself from me. We did have a talk about it when Bob and I first started dating, and I told her I'd break up with him if she wasn't comfortable with it, considering he's her friend, but she rejected the idea. She hugged me and said she was happy for me, so I took her words for it. She still distanced herself, though. Her husband, boyfriend at the time, we'll call him Jim. He didn't attend uni, but his dad had a small construction business that he works for. Jim's a good man. He did everything for Jane, but due to our culture, women can't leave the family house until marriage, so Jane and I still lived with our parents then. So when Jim had saved up enough money to buy a house, he proposed to Jane, and she said yes. Fast forward a year, and Bob proposed. I said yes. Up until now, all Jane had done was distance herself from me, but when I sat my family down and told them the news, she cried. I thought she was crying from happiness until my mom told me I should have taken my sister's feelings into consideration before telling them. It was odd. It seemed like no one was happy. My mom took Jane to her room, but my dad stayed. He told me that Jane was having a hard time with Jim. I believed them. Since then, Jane distanced herself more from me. When I tried speaking to her, she'd reply curtly. And when I brought it up with my mom, she said that she's going through a hard time, so I shouldn't make it worse, so I left it alone. That was until Bob confessed that Jane had been texting him consistently for the past few weeks. He showed me the text. She'd ask if she could call or meet him. She'd also attempt to text him late at night. The last one was when she sent him photos of her in revealing dresses and asked him to choose the prettiest. That's when he decided to tell me about it. Before anyone says anything, no, Bob didn't lead her on. His texts were dry, and frankly, if I wasn't so upset with my sister, I'd say rude. He felt uncomfortable, but decided to put up with it because she was my sister. He also admitted that Jane had confessed to him years ago, but he had rejected her. Oof. It felt like everything was falling into place when he told me that. I was so hurt by her. I immediately confronted her when I got home. I thought she'd at least be ashamed, but she said that I stole him from her. What's worse is that my mom sided with her. I've always had a feeling she was my mom's favorite, but she was my favorite too. It made sense that everyone loved Jane. I loved her too, but she betrayed me in the worst way possible. She even said she hated me and didn't want to see me again. No one sided with me, so I packed my things and left. My dad told me that I shouldn't leave because it's not appropriate for an unmarried girl to leave her parents' house. My mom even called me a hoer for leaving to go to Bob's place. That hurt a lot. It took a long time for me to get over what they did. When I think about it, it still stings. Bob and I lived together before marriage. I also cut contact with my family, and Bob and I got married without inviting anyone from my side, aside from a few close relatives. It was a lovely wedding, by the way. But a week ago, my cousin told me Jane had her wedding. I guess she went ahead with it. Today, though, Bob showed me a message he got on Instagram from her. He hadn't seen it because it was in the request section, but it dated back to a week ago. She confessed to him again and told him she'd make him happier than me if he gave her a chance to. I am upset, really upset. He screenshotted it and blocked her and asked if it was okay to send it to Jim, but I said no. I don't know why. Jim deserves better, but I just don't want to deal with her anymore. I can't take it. Please tell me what to do. What advice would you give? I want to move on, but I also feel so guilty for keeping this away from Jim. However, I don't want this to blow up in my face, especially when Bob and I have been living so peacefully now. Edit! Thank you all for the solid advice, both on this post and my other post. I think deep down I was still attached to the family who raised me, especially my sister. Your comments have given me a reality check. For those asking what I meant by this blowing up in my face, I know my sister. I'm afraid she'll come to my house with my mom and escalate things to the point that police are needed. But I also understand that she'll keep harassing my husband and ruining Jim's life further if we keep quiet. I took your advice and told Bob that he could contact Jim if he wanted. He said he'll think about it, so I'm leaving it at that for now. Personally, knowing his personality, he probably already sent it to Jim, even after I said no, but I'll wait to see what happens. Hi, just wanted to make a small update. As I'd thought, Bob had already sent the message to Jim, even when I told him not to. He also screen recorded the message to prove that it came from her account, which I didn't know he did. At least one of us is smart. Anyway, I won't go into too much detail, but Jim didn't reply until last night. He called Bob, and they had a long chat. Apparently, when Jim confronted Jane, she tried to blame Bob for coming on to her. They had a fight, and she left to stay with her parents. Shocking. I know a lot of you told me to send the screenshot to my parents. I did. I sent it to my dad, not my mom. Good call. I'm sorry, but I still can't find the strength to talk to her, and I don't think I ever will. My dad said he and mom will deal with it and to not tell anybody what Jane did. I feel worse now for even thinking he'd side with me, LOL. For anyone wondering whether Bob sent Jim the old messages from Jane from years ago, he didn't. He bought a new phone right after we cut contact, so he doesn't have those anymore. I don't know if Jim will divorce or annul Jane, but he told Bob not to contact him anymore, so I think we did our parts already. Thankfully, she hasn't come to my house, but I did take your advice about installing cameras. We'll be doing that next week. Thank you all for the help. You guys were right. Bob is my new family, so I'm not going to think about Jane or my parents anymore. We're having dinner at his parents tonight, so I'm rushing writing this LOL. Thank you again. I hope you all have a great day.
Tell me the fuck why I woke up at 3 p.m. today. My cousin's been at school all day. We haven't seen each other already. I'm gonna go downstairs. I'm eating dinner, whatever. After dinner, we're chilling, relaxing in the kitchen. And we're just talking. It's just me and her. And she's like, guess who the fuck added me on Snapchat? And I was like, bitch, who? Who the fuck added you? I'm ready for the tea. And she was like, John. Keep in mind, John, I'm just gonna say John, but that's my ex, right? So she was like, John. And I was like, John. I know a couple Johns. Let me just put that out there. So I was like, John? And she was like, John, like you're John. And I was like, John. We went back and forth for like 5 minutes. And she's like, John, bro. Like, John, you're fucking John. I was like, John. She was like, John. And I was like, fuck. I was like, what did John say? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And apparently, a little backstory, John's sister gave me some clothes while we were dating, right? Because like she was like my size and she was like, you know what, I feel like you like this, you can wear it, blah blah blah. So John has some clothes that she had gave me, and I never gave John back the fucking clothes because bitch, the clothes are mine now, like the fuck. So my cousin, for another backstory, my cousin loves one of the shirts that John's sister gave me. So she's always posting in it, she's always wearing it. And so basically, apparently John texted my cousin and was like, oh, like, my sister wants her shit back. Like, my sister don't even like that hoe. Like, I'm done with this whole situation. Like, I don't even want to be fucking with you anymore. Like, give me my shit back. And I'm sitting there, I'm fucking eating this up. I'm like, bitch, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, the fuck? And apparently, like, John's sister was like, oh, yeah, like, if she don't want to give my shit back, like, I'll run it up. And my cousin was like, bitch, I'll run it up with you. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, who are you talking to? And I'm like, I'm sitting here like and baffled. I'm baffled because this would totally happen. Like, this is something that John would absolutely 100% do. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then she's like, yeah. And apparently, like, John was like, well, can I come over and pick up my shit? And my cousin's like, yeah, you can come over and pick up your shit. So I'm sitting here listening to this. I'm like, no, John can not come to my casa and pick up my shit. No. Bitch, that shit's gonna be in the garbage. You can pick it up from the fucking dumpster because you're not coming to my house and you're not seeing me. The fuck? And apparently John was like, yeah, but like the only way I'll come pick it up is if Corinne, me, gives it to me. And my cousin's like, oh hell no, like you're not about to see her. And I'm like, no, you're not about to see me, bitch. I don't want you. I don't want to see you. I don't want to look at you. I don't want to touch you. I don't want to even be like, I don't want you to breathe on me. The fuck? Absolutely not. John, you're fucking crazy. So then my cousin's like, yeah, like he's talking about coming over and like picking up your shit. And I'm like, no, absolutely fucking not. And then she was like, oh yeah, like, but then he said April Fools. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Genuinely, I sat there. I had to take a seat because I was baffled. Why would you do me like that? Why would you do me like that? I was shaking in my boots. I was shaking in my boots. She did me so dirty. She did me so wrong. Who does that? Who does that to a human? Let me know.
The first time I donated my eggs, the couple didn't pay me and I had to hold their fertility medication hostage until they did. The first time I donated my eggs, I was 18 years old. The only reason I went private is because the first egg donation company that I was working with didn't want to accept me until I was 19 years old. So where did I find this couple? I posted an ad. I was healthy, I fit the metrics. I was just gonna find one privately. I think I had a match within 24 hours. It was such a generic email that had reached out to me. It was like literally egg donation for us. They said, hey, we're looking for an egg donor. We're already starting the process. If you want to go ahead, we can do a screening and see where we go from there. I go to a doctor's appointment in Los Angeles and I meet with a doctor and she says, oh my gosh, you look just like her. Wow, that's weird. You do a screening, your eggs look great, fantastic. It's not eggs, it's other things, but for the story, your ovas. So I email her, hey, I went to the doctor. They said everything was great. She's gonna talk to you. I hope this works out. They drew my blood when I was at the doctor's office. Turns out I'm super hypothyroid. The doctor thinks that we shouldn't continue. Now, the couple, very religious, not telling anybody that they're using an egg donor. It's like a defying God standpoint in their family. I look just like them. We want to continue. This doctor then starts treating me for my hypothyroidism to get me ready to donate my eggs. While this is happening, we're starting to go to legal. Their lawyer is also my lawyer. Now, because I had never done a formal egg donation and this was my first time, I didn't know that you had to be represented by somebody and they had to be represented by somebody. I thought you're just signing a contract and whatever. Again, 18 years old. They were gonna pay me $3,000 plus expenses. This was 2011. I was 18 years old. That was a shitload of money, and I was getting in. It's really hard becoming a first-time egg donor when you've never had any babies, you've never been pregnant, you've never tried to get pregnant, you've never had any pregnancies that didn't, whatever. They're making a gamble on you if you could even get pregnant. And fertility rates for everyone, everywhere, boom, boom, boom. So anyway, for me, I was like, okay, if I do this first donation, I'll have the formal paperwork to say I've been an egg donor before, here's my recs, and then be able to go to agencies. So I start going to my appointments. It's all the way in Los Angeles. It's 2 hours away. I have to pay gas. I have to, if I'm eating down there, whatever, I could eat before, but I have to pay $20 to park in the freaking doctor's office. This is like downtown. And then I have to drive back home. And I'm also going to school. So I'm like having her write doctor's notes, whatever, right? I'm doing blood. I'm on new medicine. I'm on donor medicine. Then I'm going to the doctor every 2 days. Finally, it's freaking time. Have my friends at 6 a.m. drive me down Los Angeles. I need somebody to take me there, pick me up. Egg donation is like such a lucrative thing. I was like so excited for my 3G balls. I was paying off my little piece of shit car. I was just like, fuck, my life was gonna change just a little bit. Bro, I do the egg donation. The doctor, she like tricks me. She starts talking about my earrings and then all of a sudden I'm under. Now, when you work with an agency, that money is in a different bank account so that basically when you wake up, your money is like ding, 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 ding. The doctor's already confirmed with the agency, time to get paid. This is like a fucking cash cow experience. I'm sorry. I've donated my eggs 6 or 7 times. Got babies all over the world. Like Nick Cannon of eggs. Anyway, now I've had friends who, like, this is how I got into it, is from friends doing it prior. The amount of eggs that they get is insane. She wakes me up and she's like, yeah, I got 6. I was like, whoa, am I a bad candidate? She was like, no, that's great. We don't overstim. Just, we only need a little bit. Like, okay, cool. Email my chick, tell her, hey, it's done. Ghost. I was like, there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way. Start emailing her, hey, yo, like literally I'm done. It's like a couple days later. Nothing. I reach out to the lawyer and I'm like, hey, yo, like, where do I go from here? What's the process? I'll get back to you. Nobody is contacting me. It's literally been like maybe 9 or 10 days. I'm telling my mom, like, what the fuck do I do? First off, okay, like, say you weren't gonna pay me. Where do those eggs go? Do I call that doctor? Like, hey, is that my property because nobody purchased it? Or are they just gonna take it and like, sorry, bitch? Stupid! I was stressing. So finally, I'm 18 years old. My mom gets on the phone with the lawyer. And she said some crazy shit. Something to the extent of like, I dare you to put him in her because anything you grow out of that is ours. Basically, like, if you do anything like not pay me and then go ahead with your pregnancy, whatever baby you make, I'm gonna come after for myself. I would fucking hate that. That would be my worst nightmare. But that's what she said was happening. So I had all their fertility medication from before, right? Finally, somebody emails me. The chick, oh, sorry, we couldn't get back to you. This was also anonymous. So if this is coming through on your For You page and this sounds familiar, she needs the medication for her retrieval. So they need me to ship it in a special shipping because it needs to get there overnight and it also needs to be refrigerated. They need me to pay $50 for it. This is like one of those pay me $500, you're gonna get 3,000 back scams at this point. I'm like, are you fucking, what is happening? I said, no, I'm keeping them. They're mine. Like that baby, it's mine. I will give you your medicine when you pay me A, for shipping, and B, for the whole thing. That's my expenses. Less than 24 hours, that shit was sent in the mail. Crazy. And then I fucking heard it. I've heard it from that agency that was like, yeah, we don't take you till you're 19. Why? Because we're fucking stupid?
Today was surgery day, but I did not get surgery, so let's talk about it. As most of you know, I was supposed to go in for my breast revision. So if you saw my pre-op appointment, you know that that was the last appointment before the surgery days. We went there, I confirmed the sizing, all of that. So today I showed up at like 7:15 was my check-in. Bradley dropped me off. I go back in the room, I get changed into like the surgical wear, the gown, the compression socks, everything. Even like the nurse comes in and she like puts in my IV, like literally everything ready to go right into surgery. The last step is for the anesthesiologist to come in. This is where it all went downhill. As many of you know, I'm a type 1 diabetic. So she got through most of the questions and then she's like, okay, what was like your most recent blood sugar? And I'll admit it was higher than I would have liked it to be. The thing is, I have extremely bad anxiety and I just had a really honestly traumatic low blood sugar episode. My biggest fear going into surgery was like being put under and not being able to like watch my blood sugar. My anxiety about like me dropping super low is just really bad. Being that I was running purposely like a little high, I woke up this morning at like 260. But then I don't know if it was because of like all my nerves going to surgery. Like by the time the anesthesiologist was like looking at it and everything, I got up to like 340, which I know is very high, and I'm probably gonna get other diabetics in my comments saying how bad that is. Like, I'm aware. She sees that and she's like, oh my gosh, you could have a stroke. It was already starting to trend down anyways, but she looked extremely concerned. And then she told me that she was gonna go kind of fill in the surgeon. So at that point, I kind of knew it was coming. He comes in and he's like, yeah, like this is too much of a risk. They were both just kind of equally uncomfortable with putting me under and operating. So sadly, that was it for today. I was just really looking forward to this like a lot. So it definitely sucks, but of course it's better to be safe than sorry. Like that is their job. Like safety is the #1 concern. It just sucks. So then Bradley picked me up. I went back home. I was kind of just waiting to hear like next steps. Like how do I reschedule? She finally calls me and tells me that now I have to get a bunch of labs done and then be cleared by my endocrinologist before I can even reschedule. That was definitely a bummer. I thought I was gonna be able to reschedule like for like next week. So yeah, just waiting now. Like this gut feeling that the labs are gonna come back and like my A1C is gonna be high and they're just not gonna let me have surgery regardless. So I'm just really hoping that comes back good. I hope it all works out. I'm just waiting to hear back pretty much about everything. So that is the current situation. I'll keep you guys updated about my lab results and whatever the doctor says. But yeah, thanks for listening to me rant. Love you guys.